This is Roseanne. She's famous for having a TV show back in the 90s with John Goodman, self-titled. I think the name of it was Roseanne. She's gone completely off the deep end, okay? She is a far-right nutter-butter who has found herself sitting on Alex Jones's set. She's doing an interview with Alex Jones, dead serious. This is actually part 3. If you haven't seen the other, don't sweat it. This stands independently of the rest. I'll provide context if it's missing. She claims to be Jewish. I'm not convinced because this is a Saturday when this is happening, when this interview is taking place. It's the Sabbath. She said it earlier. And if she really is Jewish, she's breaking a ton of rules. She also gets really anti-Semitic pretty soon. So let's listen and see what she had to say in this interview with Alex Jones. It's bound to get nutty.
He goes to God and says, these are bad. See, let me go after them. That's why he wants us to do sins and create wicked dominions, because he can only operate where he's got that going on.
And then he brings us before the court of heaven and says, here were their sins and here's what I got them to do. So in effect, you don't get away with nothing. And you
That's what's crazy is Satan is described as the prosecutor.
That's right. He is the prosecutor.
He's the accuser.
Okay, I don't remember that. He's the accuser, but not the prosecutor. What are they talking about?
He's the accuser and the prosecutor in the upper court. So
there is no upper court of heaven. What the fuck are they talking about? This is just like a nonsensical far-right extremist fever dream that these people live in.
That message says is, you also will be judged for what you allow and for what you're blind to. You also will be judged for what you allowed. I want people to know that, because what you turned your blind eye to, you're going to be judged for that too. So
well, Tucker Carlson said this Friday, where are the big Christian churches? When we play the clip in a moment, where are the Christian churches when in the U.S., Canada, Europe, everywhere, they are arresting preachers that peacefully protest abortion clinics?
Okay, they are not arresting preachers that peacefully protest abortion clinics. I haven't heard word of preachers being arrested, period. Is this even true? I would be willing to bet money that he's just making this up. Not Alex Jones, but Tucker Carlson, who was talking about a minute ago. But aside from that, no one is being arrested for exercising their First Amendment right. It's not happening. I don't know. It might be happening in cases of drag queens exercising their First Amendment rights, but it's not happening to the right wing. Put it that way.
And peacefully protest drag queen pedophile time, and they are
okay, that's not what that is. But hang on, let me step back. Let's listen again.
Where Tucker Carlson said this Friday, where are the big Christian churches? When we play the clip in a moment, where are the Christian churches when in the U.S., Canada, Europe, everywhere, they are arresting preachers that peacefully protest abortion clinics?
That's not happening.
And peacefully protest drag queen pedophile time, and they are...
That's not what that is.
...arresting them. Where is Joel Osteen? Where are they? Even if you're not a Christian, then we should support their free speech.
Well, I think that is what Jesus said, ain't it?
To the Pharisees, he said, you're not really doing anything.
Yeah, I think that's what he said.
And they got mad. They said, why are you hanging around with tax collectors and Protestants? He said, that's where the people need help. You're too high and mighty and even meet with these people.
And he also took people up to a mountain and he said, hey, I'm going to feed 2,000 people with, just a little bit of fish and a little bit of wine. Remember?
No, loaves and fishes. Wine? Did Jesus even bring wine to like the loaves and fishes thing or whatever? What you talking about?
That one?
Yes.
And what did he say? He was teaching people about metaphysics and common will.
What? Jesus? Metaphysics? What you talking about?
The will of the people united can change everything, including, I know this will get me in trouble, but I believe it, including matter itself.
Well, they know in...
What does she mean by that? Hold on. She says, I know it'll get me in trouble? As if literally everything that she said up to this point isn't fucking unhinged from reality. There's nothing that she could say right now that would get her in more trouble than what she's already in. Okay, I wrote that one down. Listen to this one more time. We'll try to get a grip on what she's saying here.
What did he say? He was teaching people about metaphysics and common will. The will of the people united can change everything, including, I know this will get me in trouble, but I believe it, including matter itself.
So she's saying if you believe hard enough, then you can be capable of levitating things and like moving them from one place to another, like the Force. Is that what she's saying? I think so.
Well, they know in quantum mechanics,
Right.
for 100 years, 120, 150 years of Max Planck, but now they've got the big spectrometers and things, and they know that just a human observing something, when the microscopes are observing, they can't catch it. As soon as you turn it off, the particle slips across the time-space barrier.
Okay, this is actually a completely misunderstood effect that he's talking about here, and I know a lot about this, so we may end up getting into this in a minute. The observer effect in quantum mechanics, yeah. A lot of people believe there's something mystical about this, something special that implies that electrons know that there's an observer there, and that's why they're doing this or whatever. It's not. That's not what's actually happening. I'll explain it in a minute if I need to.
It can't be seen. It's not allowed to be seen. That's power. And
No, it's not allowed to be seen. That has nothing to do with it. The bottom line behind the observer effect is we're dealing with particles, electrons, that are so small. They're like the smallest things in the universe, practically. The smallest measurable things in the universe, right? Now, how do we measure things? We shoot photons at it, and when they bounce off of that thing and come back to like the eye of the camera or the retina or whatever, we can measure how quickly it comes back, or we can measure, its distance or whatever other thing. That's how we do those measurements. That's what they mean when they say observe. We're bouncing things off of these particles, right? So basically when something bounces off of this like electron or whatever, to do the measurement in the first place, when something bounces off the electron, it messes it up. It changes its location and all of the data that we gathered about it, because they're both so small that they affect each other's size and they affect each other's like destination and spin and all of that other stuff. The observer effect is just a result of an inability to measure something so small with something else that's also so small. That's what it is. It's not mystical. It's not special. It's not like secret or whatever. That's all just made up nonsense.
Scientists who weren't even religious or spiritual, they go, whoa, something else is in control.
No, that's not what scientists ever said at any point. This is just co-opted by religious nutcases who wanted it to be something crazy when it's just not.
They're seeing it for themselves.
Yeah, because consciousness affects matter.
I don't know what that means at all, but okay.
It
Proven.
absolutely does. So that's why I was thinking if we all put our heads together and like the will of the people united equals the work of God.
And that's what the system fears, is the will to wake up, the will to build a better world, the will to say we can have all the resources we need, which we've got. They've already photographed trillions of galaxies now with hundreds of millions of stars.
Photographed trillions of galaxies? Well, you can't possibly count to a trillion. You know how long it would take to count to a billion? 31 years. That's how long it would take. So counting to a trillion would be 1,000 times that amount. 31 years times 1,000, what is that? 31,000? I mean, I guess if you had 31,000 people counting these universes, or I'm sorry, counting these galaxies, it would take each of them like a year to do it or something, but okay. I'm just saying, like, it's a little thing, but I want to really poke holes in what he's saying here.
Stars and planets per galaxy. I mean, folks, we're at an embryonic level. We're about to do something big, and there's a force that knows that is the tester, that is allowed.
Your mom's about to do something big, which is me. Zing. Common Owen W right there.
We're about to do something big, and there's a force that knows that is the tester, that is allowed. because that's free will. Doesn't mean God likes it, but God has to give us free will, and that's kind of
God is unhappy about the fact that we have free will. What?
boot camp, and some make it through boot camp, some don't.
Yeah, because after free will, after free will, there's something else. That's called invention.
Invention? What the fuck are these two people talking about?
Exactly, innovation,
Creativity, true creativity.
God, we're made in the image of the Creator.
Yeah,
We create, and look what we've done. We envision.
Dude, I love that Alex Jones doesn't understand a fucking word she's saying, and he's just doing his best to, like, pretend that he agrees with her and understands what she's trying to communicate when he very obviously does not. I love it. This is hilarious.
Spaceships on the moon 150 years ago, they're there. Max Planck envisioned 130 years ago, atomic bombs in his mind. It was real. That's power.
Our power is we can
Just dead silence. I love it, dude. Our power is
fix every single problem on earth if we just see it. When was the last time I always ask people, can you envision a perfect society? And nobody ever can, because they haven't even thought to do it. Hasn't even occurred to them to think to do it. But of course it can't exist until we see it. It can't exist until we see it and talk about it, think about it. Even
dude, I'm starting to wonder if maybe she's schizophrenic or something. I don't know. It's hard to tell. It's hard to tell, like, what's going on with her in her head, but something's not quite right here. The dub of the anime Ghost Stories is hilarious improv. One of the quotes from a mom to her son is, "Drag queens won't bother you. Worry about the priests." Oh, that's funny. I love it. That's fantastic. I got to use that in the future. Alex Jones brings the crazy out of people. Oh, absolutely. Or does he bring the crazy people out to him? It could be. Alex Jones damage control when she speaks low, right? This is just nuts, dude.
think about it.
And the perfect society is interfacing with God, with competition and ideas and openness. And the most intelligent and powerful become the leaders, but they scoop up those of the lowest, empower them, and it just makes it all so much stronger.
Yeah, because that's why I moved to Hawaii, because I had in my mind this vision of a perfect society where everybody ate, everybody grew stuff in common, food, because food is what's going to be scarce next. That's the next trick.
Well, Thomas Jefferson said, farmers are the basis of any civilization.
And I farm in Hawaii, organic farming, and we fought with Monsanto. Well, that's why I end up running for president, because in
She fought with Monsanto. Interesting. Wow, this is revealing a lot, actually. She ran for president in 2012. That's not something that I knew. Is that even true? Did she even get like 1% of the vote? Was she even in the polls? I doubt it. What a crazy story.
2012, I helped to chase Monsanto's ass off the big island of Hawaii. And they were going.
Kona?
No, not. Yeah, Kona.
No, it's called Hawaii, the big island, I believe.
Yeah.
Great job.
Yeah. And, for organic farming.
People that don't know that I'm in a helicopter, that is a big, giant farm.
Yeah. And I grow pineapples, citrus, and I got like 2,000 MacNut trees. And
She doesn't grow shit. She has people doing all this for her. It's not fair to claim that she's a farmer. She's not.
I'm glad to talk about this too, because the macadamia nut is a gift of God, and I believe that might.
Oh my God. Macadamia nuts are like heavily revered in Hawaii. I went to Hawaii when I was like 14 or something, because my mom worked for a call center, like taking phone calls for people. She made like minimum wage. And when she worked there, she got 4 free standby plane tickets per year, basically. Like, she was allowed to go anywhere for her immediate family 4 times a year for free, basically. But we had to like stay in the airport a few times, though, sleep on the chairs there, because there was no outgoing flight available for us. So it wasn't perfect or flawless or whatever, but we paid basically nothing to go to Hawaii. It was practically free. which is pretty cool. But anyways, yeah, they're really big on macadamia nuts in Hawaii. It's like, I don't know, one of the things that they love the most there or something.
Been what manna was in the desert. I have it in my mind. It could have been.
Macadamia nuts were manna. Are you kidding me? Manna wasn't real, first of all. And second, it was described as icing, okay? Not nuts. What?
Because it was like, that nut is the perfect protein, that it has the exact amount of fats and protein to nourish the brain. And I have it all over the ground in Hawaii because it costs too much to shell it twice. And then, you know, that's why they're so expensive. But this is the most perfect food for the human being that, you know, I believe it's just the perfect food that could solve world hunger right now if they'd figure out a way.
Well, that's the thing. The global
Macadamia nuts could solve world hunger, she says. Oh, my God, dude. She bought into the Hawaiian propaganda, I guess. How ridiculous.
are openly creating as many problems as they can because they're scared of this jump point we're about to achieve, where we'll have free energy, unlimited power, unlimited life, even the third dimension. God's given us so much power that our soul is eternal, but now it's about to be eternal even in this third dimension. That's the reflection of that eternity is so powerful. It's about to create immortality here now.
Dude, what is he talking about? Like, these words mean things individually, but when put together are completely meaningless.
Well, I'm seeing
that's the higher dimensions invading the lower dimensions.
I'm seeing in the fifth dimension, which my friend wrote a book, Married.
Okay, there is no fifth dimension to our knowledge. Like, what's she talking about? There are 3 space dimensions, and then there's 1 fourth dimension, which is time. Space and time are not separate things. There's a single thing called space-time, one thing. When you are moving in one direction, you slow in the other direction. Like, if you're going northeast at 50 miles an hour, you're actually moving north at 25 miles an hour and east at 25 miles an hour, right? Like an Etch-a-Sketch, if you think about it. And time, being one of the dimensions that we move through at a certain rate, if you're moving, you know, in one dimension at a certain speed, then your dimension, then your movement through time, the time dimension slows. That's how it works. What would the fifth dimension be? What's she talking about? Fifth dimension?
Called Quintessence, about the...
Dude, she is sick. I mean, really, she's sick. She needs help now. She is in bad shape, for real.
Dimension, where everything is telepathic and we're connected to the past, the present, and the future, which we are anyway. We're wired for that, all at the same time, but we don't really notice it because we have all these walls in our mind due to mind control and mass media and all these other distractions.
All right, hold on. I got to write this one down too. 220, fifth dimension mind control. This is just nuts, dude.
But we do have the power to go into the past and see the future and be in the now at the exact same time. And we do it every day anyway, but we don't.
Let me tell you, it hasn't happened a lot in my life, but I've had it happen 10 times or so where I have an exact dream. It can be the most simple thing, but it can also be very usually traumatic thing that comes true months or years later. I've even written down the stuff that happens exactly as I saw. So that's going into the future. And really, that's what the system fears, is that we have that capacity. And once you transcend and realize how powerful you are through God, you don't need them anymore.
Well, the fifth dimension is where all of that stuff comes into play, and how we can trigger ourselves into the fifth dimension, which I think we are in the doorway of, is by just imagining. I love the word imagining what it looks like to live in a perfect neighborhood or perfect, let's start with family. What does it look like to live in a perfect neighborhood? What does it look like to live in a perfect community that works for all the people, where all the kids are safe? And I think about that all the time. So in Hawaii, it's a bunch of farms in common, and everybody grows the things that are needed for the community.
So what she's describing is communism, right? She's describing communism. She wants to live on a commune. She wants to be a communist. It sounds to me, right? Am I missing something here?
And it works really well. And I think it's a model. And I think everybody should start thinking about that now.
This is just nuts, dude. Holy shit. She has problems.
Because they are trying to manipulate our food. That's the next big thing, and our water. So everybody should be looking into like how to get your community-based food and water. That's living with your neighbor and reaching out to them and working, together to make that happen without the government giving you anything, but doing the work yourselves.
And again, that sounds oversimplistic, but it's not. The whole system is about making us dependent on them.
Yeah, taking away our free will.
No, no to all of this. She really needs mental help. Roseanne Barr is officially running for president. Oh, okay. 2012. Wow. There was a link apparently where she ran for president. This is from the Washington Post. The comedian registered with Federal Election Commission in late January to run for the Green Party nomination. The LA Times reports Green Party. That's like a left-wing party. That's weird. Both the Democratic and Republican parties are bought and paid for by corporate America and cater to the needs of the highest bidder as opposed to the people they claim to represent, she said in a statement. She adds that she's been a tireless advocate of Occupy Wall Street since the beginning. Well, no longer. This is her kind of on the left, and now she's on the right. What the hell happened to her? God, she went downhill quickly. That was just like out of nowhere. That is nuts. Dude, she's got problems.
Sort of free will, free thought, any kind of individuality. They don't want us to help each other either.
The government? The government does not care if you help anybody, whatever.
They don't want us to educate each other. They don't want us to lift each other. They just want us all to fight, 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 and hate.
How is it going for the New World Order?
Well,
there is no New World Order. Okay? You live in a delusion.
They're over, and they know they're over, and they're desperate. Look how desperate they are. Would it come to a point where they're actually thinking about pushing Putin to, surrounding Putin on every single side?
Of course she supports Putin. Of course she does. QAnon, in my opinion, is basically just an outlet for Vladimir Putin's propaganda into the United States. I've seen enough Putin propaganda come right out of QAnon that I'm comfortable calling it. Like, it is just a right-wing arm of the Russian government. QAnon is, basically. Now, I guess that's how she got sucked into it, I'm assuming, was through that. I don't know. It's so hard to know exactly, like, what sources she's reading and stuff like that, but my God, this is crazy.
Look what they're doing over there. Look what we're doing. We're doing it.
And again, it's because Russia is weak. I'm not saying Russians are weak themselves, but I'm saying they're the smallest power of the three blocks. The U.S. globalist thing, the Chi-Coms allied with that covertly, and Russia has this great landmass and all this, but they are weak compared to the globalists, and I think that's why they've chosen them. But at the end of the day, now they're forcing the Russians to fight. Where do you see this going?
Well, my family is from the Ukraine and from Russia. And I know that every single fight, that's why I'm talking to people today.
Wait, her family's from Ukraine and Russia? And she's also apparently Jewish in addition to that? Okay. I mean, it's not unheard of. I'm just trying to, chase all this back and figure out what she believes about her heritage and her whole setup here, because everything that she said so far contradicts what she has claimed about her heritage and all of that.
Every single fight is won through heart and will. It's decided at that point. That. That's Machiavellian. It's decided at the point of will and heart. And so you can't take that away from the Russians. And I like how he said, well, go ahead anyway, because what is the world without Russia? And I mean, what is the world without Russia?
Wow, she is puffing. She's putting a puff in Putin's petticoat, if you will. Alliteration, unintentional, but much appreciated. This is just bizarre, dude. It's bizarre to hear somebody so positive about Vladimir Putin and Russia when they're so very obviously the bad guys in this situation?
So what do you gut level think's about to happen?
I think what's about to happen is, because we prayed here today, all that shit's going to break down, and I think that nothing's going to happen. I think they're all going to get caught. I think that...
Who is they? Who's going to get caught?
That the whole Epstein thing's going to be exposed. I think that intelligence and the people and all...
She thinks the Epstein thing's going to get exposed. What specific thing is she talking about right now? Wasn't the Epstein thing exposed already? Don't we all know that he was doing what he was doing now? I don't understand. What more is going to be exposed? I mean, I guess we could get a list of, his clients that he had. He had a black book, didn't he, at some point? I'd love to have that list, but I honestly don't think it'd make a difference. Donald Trump was very obviously close with Epstein and involved in what he was up to. Tons and tons of pictures of them together and court records and all kinds of stuff. And no one seems to give a shit about that.
The research they're doing is going to pay off. I think every one of them, as my friend said about 20 years ago, the children will speak the names of their abusers in public. I think it will crumble everything. And these...
So just like the communists and the Nazis, this tyranny seems invincible. It seems arrogant. It seems like it can't be stopped. But they act arrogant and all powerful. You will eat bugs. You'll have nothing, to make us...
You will eat bugs. You'll have nothing. What? Who is saying any of this stuff?
Think, well, they're so evil. They're out in the open. They're doing that to make us think we're weak.
They're doing it, to make us think we're helpless. But, like I said, they don't know anything about the human spirit or the soul of God.
Which shows how they're not human. I saw an article.
I don't believe that. I don't think they're human either.
Exactly. It's like an
I
avatar.
Think they're messengers.
They've turned their bodies over.
They're negative angels. And
wow, dude. Who is they? Is it the Jews? I think it's the Jews in this case. Or anybody to the left of hunting the homeless for sport. Or both, I guess.
They're like, they're putting fear into us because Satan feeds on fear.
Well, I saw a New York Times article last week where they went,
Well, Satan may feed on fear. I get she believes that, but personally, I think that I feed on your mom.
Last week, where they went, we've done major polls in Russia and secret studies and talked about it. The more we kill Russians, the more they fight. Well, when Hitler started bombing London and civilian targets, it made the British go from being anti-war to pro-war. That's like, you walk up and punch me in the face, you're going to get a fight. I mean, how did they not know that starting a war 9 years ago in Ukraine and then launching it and getting Putin to come in?
Wow. Listen to him twisting this shit around completely out of proportion. This is actually really interesting. So he says the United States or I guess, what do you call it? Like Zelensky or Ukraine started the war in Crimea in 2014, 9 years ago. Ukraine started the war in Crimea, and then that forced Russia to come in. What? Who was the war between if they started the war in the first place and forced Russia to come in? He's making it seem like it was a three-way battle between three different groups of people, Russia included. Who's the third party? There was no war started by Zelensky, okay, or Ukraine or America or any of it. Russia tried to take Crimea for imperialistic reasons in 2014 and took it. And then in 2022, Putin came in and tried to take the rest of Ukraine for imperialistic reasons. Who started this war exactly? And with who? Like, who is the other party? This is such nonsense. Yeah, Putin invading Crimea was Ukraine being aggressive? Exactly, Robert Adsett. Just ridiculous on every level.
And launching it and getting Putin to come in. How did they not know that, the Russians are losing, now they're really ready to go to war? Like, how do you not know human nature? It's not human. I can tell you right now, I said it a year ago when it started. I said they're going to beat the Russians up front, and the Russians are going to double down. It's going to escalate. I mean, now it's happening.
Well, they want an escalation because that's a part of depopulation. Also, war is a great cover for stealing kids.
Wow, dude, this is just fucking crazy. But you know what? This is actually straight out of the QAnon textbook what they're saying here. There's this person named Delora O'Brien, right? She's a QAnon nutter butter to the extreme. And she claimed, like, shortly after the war, like a month after the war started in Ukraine, that, well, you know what? I'll just let you listen to it. Just listen to her claim here. This is early March 2022, just a month or two after the war started. It started February 20th, so actually it's just a couple weeks after the war started. Listen to what Delora O'Brien, QAnoner, said about it.
I'm not on Putin's side. I'm not on Zelensky's side. I'm not on Trump's side. I'm on God's side. God's side is the side of truth. It just so happens that right now, our President Trump is on the side of God.
No.
Also, believe it or not, so is Putin.
I don't believe it. Okay, so here's the claim. Listen to this.
Right before I came on here, this is what was sent to me. A Russian soldier, I even have his name, and I can't give it. I'm sorry, I can't. Just research it. I'm sure it'll start coming out.
Anyone surprised it never came out? Because it was fake?
Searching for bioweapons. There was him and a few of the other soldiers.
That was the original claim, that they were searching for bioweapons in Ukraine. It was completely made up. It was Russian propaganda. So why is an American, like 2 weeks after the war starts, spreading Russian propaganda like this that came straight out of the Kremlin? It gets even worse. Keep listening.
Searching for bioweapons in central Ukraine, stumbled upon a child trafficking den.
Nonsense. All of it. This is straight from the Kremlin. Straight Russian propaganda intended to deceive gullible fools who already believe in QAnon. QAnon is nothing more than Russia's route into propagandizing to Americans. That's what it is. She goes on to describe it in vivid detail. It was all made up, all of it. It offered no evidence for it, of course. It's like that's what we're seeing again with Roseanne. She's, once again, propagandizing for Russia. What investment does she have in improving Russia's reputation? Why does she care? She doesn't. She's being propagandized too by QAnon.
And let's talk about that. They are
everything is about that. I called it the pedo Ponzi pyramid.
Talk about it. Their currency is innocence of children, because children are connected to God, and if they can torture a child, that pisses God off and sticks a knife in God's leg.
Well,
dude, just everything about this is unhinged from reality. And aside from that, why doesn't God do something about it if that's true? Why doesn't he prevent this from happening? Because it's all made up.
And that's what it is they want to torture God, and that's why they want to hurt children. Is that correct?
They hate life. They're necrophilic. We are biophilic. We love life. And that's...
Okay, so what she said, I feel like she is misusing this without even realizing it. This is just... I'm so lost and confused by all of this. Does she realize that necrophilia is very specifically a sexual thing, not just like loving life or loving death or whatever? This is just weird.
The difference. You can call it good or evil. You can call it God or Satan.
But are you pro-life or pro-death? Exactly.
Exactly. And that's funny because look at how they say, like I said, I went from domestic goddess to domestic terrorist, I guess, because I've never been somebody who's for killing kids in the womb or out, It's funny. But
well, let's talk.
That's not what anybody has a problem with. Nobody cares if you are pro-life or, pro-choice or anything. No one gives a shit. You can be whatever you want. You're a terrorist. You're an extremist now, Roseanne. Have you lost the plot completely at this point? She needs mental help badly.
Talk about that. I don't want to interrupt you.
That's all it's about. It's a pedo Ponzi scheme, and a pedo Ponzi scheme. It's Yeah, currency is children.
I want you to elaborate on that. I'm not trying to get you in trouble again, but you went on Joe Rogan like 4 years ago when you got deplatformed along with me. And I have the 60 Minutes clip. Guys, cue it up. If she doesn't say it, it's fine. Because taking on Soros is a big deal. But
Wow, dude, that's crazy. I'll tell you what, I'm going to stop it there. Hang on.
I want you to elaborate.
Yeah, currency is children.
What an absolutely unhinged thing to say. Like, I don't know. How did she get here, dude? How did she get to this point? This is fucking nuts. Her mind is completely gone. Right? Wow, dude. I feel so bad for her family that they have to deal with this. This is really sad. And that it's so public. It couldn't just be like somebody who has real mental problems. It had to be a public display. That's really sad. I'm sorry that they have to deal with this. I wish them the best. Anyway, let me know what you think about this in the comments. This is absolutely nuts as far as I'm concerned.